red line. I beat the red light. I never beat the red light. I'll do that again. Welcome to the CHP Paranormal guys. I'm the creator, founder of CHP, lead investigator. My name is Chad. First paranormal experience ever was when I was about 4 years old in Town and Country. We lived in a house. Heard giggling in my room, thought it was my sister, my little sister and my little cousin. Then saw a shadow person run across the hallway. And at that point, been fascinated about anything that has to do with ghosts since. Been doing this now for, feels like forever, for a long time, about since 2001. This team is fairly new. My team's fairly new, and we've been around for about a year and a half. We got a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is called CHP Paranormal Explorations. You know, we go out, we're gonna look for anything, urban legends. We go out and seek the truth. And when you watch our paranormal channel on YouTube, you don't have to worry about a lot of the other guys. I'm not gonna name them out there. We don't fake our stuff. And how we don't even edit our video. We when we edit our video, we literally just like put it on there and it's like, okay, good, that works. You'll see me mess up the intro. Sometimes I forget the name of my own damn team, so.
Also, just so you know, this is our first panel ever, so don't judge us too harshly.
Yeah, we might pass out a questionnaire at the end, you know, just tell us how we did. I'm just kidding.
I don't think we will.
No, we have technical difficulties all the time. The printer probably didn't work. But I also got to hear my investigator.
Hey everybody, my name's Grady, also sometimes known as the Lost Boy because of this stuff. Me and Chad have been friends for a very long time. I first fell into the paranormal when I was about 13. It was an experience more than experiment, because that was just bad wording. Where I ended up being aware that my grandfather, who had passed about 2 years previous, was in my room, and ever since then I always looked for more spookier and or dead things. That's Heather back there.
Yeah, she's always behind, usually always behind the camera. Very, very rarely does she come out from behind the camera. She usually just likes let me take the lead or bark orders from behind the camera. She'll tell me a lot of times like, we can't hear you. So. But she's also a co-founder and co-creator of CHP Paranormal. So,
my involvement in the paranormal world pretty much didn't start until after we got married. He's taught me everything I know about paranormal investigating. I had more of an interest in occult studies, different religions, spirituality, things of that nature, trying to figure out things that would go on that I couldn't explain.
So, okay, we got to.
Do you feel like there's a region like around the world that experience more paranormal activity than any other?
I don't really think that there's any place in the world that you're going to feel or experience more paranormal than others. I mean, of course, places with dark history, a lot of history behind it, maybe that would be the place where you'd find more paranormal stuff because a lot more stuff happened there. But a lot of it has to do with energy and with the earth. And this kind of goes into the occult study part. It's theories. You know, right now, paranormal investigating is not exact science. We go out there, it's a lot of hypothesis. It's sometimes 4 hours talking in a dark room by yourself, hoping to get something on one of these beautiful devices that I have in front of me, which we will go do a brief about each device that we use on our team. So, I mean, yes and no on your question is what I would say.
Personally, I think it's more about the emotional energy that happens there. So if there's a large amount of hatred, fear, sorrow, whatever, then you're going to have a little bit more paranormal or unexplained phenomenon.
So would you say like it's more like experience on like cemeteries, hospital, like what type of location will you expect paranormal activity on?
your best bet always is a cemetery. Because there are a lot of times that people don't realize that they pass away, and they will try to still feel connected to their body, so to speak, and they will be around where their body is laid to rest, and you'll see them walk around. So yes, definitely cemeteries. If you're wanting to get into the paranormal field, I would say start at a cemetery, because you're going to get some kind of paranormal experience from there, whether you have to listen real hard on earbuds or headphones to hear the background noise of your video or your equipment. So, and I think
I would say to add on to that a little bit, the older the cemetery, the better. And although it's tragic and horrific, African American cemeteries, because they were often hung there at the hanging tree and then thrown in the ground right there.
yeah, I mean.
So their traumatic death occurred on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, really what it is a lot of times spirits are going to come back to places either they remember the most, or unfinished business. You know, create the reason, and it's a possibility. Because like I said, there's no true definition of why a spirit comes back in the first place. We ask, and some of them just want send a message to somebody that they didn't get to say. Didn't talk to somebody for a long time, regretted it, wanted to talk to them. Something happened, and now they're trying to make amends. You know, it's just different theories, and that's what we base our stuff on.
In your experience, do spirits cause physical harm to people?
That's a great question. Now, wow, put us in the deep end quick.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
in my experience, spirits can harm. I mean, I've been scratched by nothing that was there, not brushed up against something. I've been pushed. I've had doors slammed in my face. I've had stuff thrown at me. You know, so I mean, spirits will do stuff to try to get your attention, but harming is usually one of the last things they resort to, because once they start physically touching you and scratching you, that's the first step. That's like the next step is going to be possession.
Yeah.
So if you're walking in your house and you feel like a burning sensation all of a sudden somewhere on you, and you see a scratch, whether it's one scratch, two scratches, usually 3 scratches, because if it's I hate using this word, I hate using the D word. If it's a demon, 3 is a mock of the Trinity. So that's why about 3:15 stuff happens. So yes, spirits will do harm to people. They are malicious, but
Most of the time, they usually are.
yeah, most of the time they'll annoy you. Pretty much, you know, move stuff on you.
More mischievous than malicious.
Yeah.
Good.
Would you say that, like what you were describing, the malicious spirits, would those be like ghosts, like the spirits of someone who's passed, or is that more frequently a demon or something, like something that isn't really?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, either
Okay.
or, depending on
Okay.
if it was a malicious person that passes.
Right, okay.
Then
Okay.
that spirit will remain around, still being just as malicious, if not more so.
Gotcha, but like they might exhibit like different behaviors or something, like you're saying, like the
Usually, the theory that's behind that right now, that the working theory that I've found is whatever their true like demeanor was, like if you're dealing with an asshole in real life, it might amplify it in their death.
Okay.
So because when they finally realize, I guess what they're saying is when a spirit finally realizes they're dead, that's when they up the ante, so to speak,
Right.
if it's a past person. So depending on what their primary emotions
Right, their
are.
strongest traits from
Yeah.
life will
Yeah.
probably be what it's exhibited, okay.
All right, Green Hood.
So, let's say that you're having an asshole in your life. Does that mean that you can combat against those feelings, or are you able to neutralize those feelings, or like, are Are you able to, or do those amplify?
I'm not 100% sure. I quite understand.
So basically, like if you come across one of those spirits or whatever, like do your feelings, like let's say like you're at like
Sounds like a question about empathy.
Okay.
Either one of us can cover that. You're
Yeah.
the lead investigator, do you?
All right, I'll start it out. If you want to add anything, interrupt me.
I'm good at that.
Yeah. All right, so I'm an actual empath. Like, you have to be like super close to me, somebody I've known for a long time, to get me to go to your wedding or to go to a funeral. Because I end up feeling whatever the main emotion is going around the whole room is what I end up being drowned in. So a lot of times, like I'll go to a funeral and my wife will tell you that it's hard for me to show emotion, but if I'm around a lot of emotional people, that's what I end up feeling. That's what helps me when I am doing a private home investigation, to help me determine exactly what it is I'm messing with. You know, because I'm going in blind a lot of times. I'm only going in by somebody else's story. You know, whether it's an urban legend or if it's your own private home. I'm going in there based on your story. So I got to take your story and then walk around. If I'm going to be there for a couple of days, if it's a private home investigation, that's when research about the land and everything else comes into play to help us kind of figure out why, who, and what. And hopefully, if we can find that out and let the spirit know, we could possibly help it move on. Now, our team does specialize. We do cleansings because all of us have occult practices. All our stuff, we are also under an umbrella paranormal team called BA Paranormal. And we're also part of the World Paranormal Society, which means they take all our evidence off of YouTube and it goes to the Catholic Church to get authenticized for us. So everything by us, that's why, like I said, watching our stuff, you're not gonna see, if we go to some place, we've done it before, we've gone to where other YouTubers have gone. I've tried to do the same thing that they've done by provoking. Don't get nearly half the activity that they get. So they're just adding activity to get more viewers, where I'm out there trying to just put the truth out there. That's what my team goal is to put the truth out there. And I mean, we'll go go hunt down Skunk Ape, Bigfoot, whatever. You know,
That's not very wheelchair friendly.
And yeah, sometimes Grady's not there because sometimes we do go to places that aren't wheelchair friendly. So
and houses, some of them are falling apart. Not so easy to push through.
And sometimes it's just vacation.
That too.
yeah, sometimes it's just vacation. It's an impromptu investigation. So, but
do they have any characteristic on what the international phenomenon needs to be?
are you okay? If I'm hoping I'm getting your question right. Now, we went to St. Lucia County, and we were actually doing a private home investigation in St. Lucia County. And we went to the Indian Mound, and while we were using the spirit box here, nothing in English came through. Nothing in Spanish came through. But you could tell it was a different language and dialect, and we're going to go ahead as paranormal investigators. We can't rationalize what's going on, so we're going to have to equate it to the language of the Indians that used to live there. So you'll keep your traits, you'll keep your everything else about you. There is a paranormal team that's trying to break through and do other experiments. We're kind of thinking about also doing the experiment they're doing. They use sign language, they use other languages to see if the spirit can understand that maybe when you pass, there's a way that you can understand all languages. You know, we're just trying to learn and understand more of what happens after we leave this physical body as much as we can. And with the evidence, I mean, we've gotten some pretty cool evidence throughout our time. my wife mentioned African American cemeteries are usually good. Spring Hill African American Cemetery has the actor Michael Telefaro, and he was in the movie Life with Eddie Murphy and Martin. Been in a couple movies with him, but he's most famous for the line. He's the guy who's like, "You gotta eat your cornbread." You know, he's buried right in Brooksville Spring Hill Cemetery. I went to his grave. Grady's had good interaction with him using.
Oh yeah, I've had a good like 10, 15-minute conversation with one of our equipments. It's kind of like the SP7, but it's more written words instead of spoken channel change. Speaking of that, you might want to explain what the SP7 is. You have all this equipment out here.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second. But so I was using this device, and this is a spirit box, and it's used to run. It runs through the frequency. It runs through the channels. I use mine in reverse on AM, and it usually goes at a 250 milliseconds. That's 0.25 of a second. And in theory, every channel that is in that line would have to be saying the syllable of that word at the exact time to get a clear phrase out of this, because of how fast it's running through the channels. So I asked at his grave, I said, "Michael, if I got you here, what is the line that you were most known for in the movies?" And not even 10 seconds later, I got over this, "Gonna eat your cornbread." You know, and you can't program words into this. It just runs through the AM and FM radio frequency. It's called a spirit box. This is also a spirit box, does the same thing. It's just, this one needs an external speaker for it to where this one doesn't. And I tend to start like using this one once I really got to learn how to use it. So I mean, if we get some cool evidence, once again, Spring Hill Cemetery, there was one time we were there, it was me, Heather, and we use my dog sometimes, Bella. We call her Bella the ghost hunting dog. And we're there, she alerted on something, she panned down with the camera. I'm not paying attention to the dog, I'm paying more attention to the spirit box, because I've got noises of footsteps and growls all somewhere walking around behind me in the dark. So I'm trying to ask the spirit box, what's that? And all of a sudden, you look, watch the video when she pans down, our dog gets grabbed by her front left paw and pulled in an unnatural direction.
Straight for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. So I mean, we even went back and looked on the ground to make sure there was like no ants, nothing that the dog could step on, because part of being a paranormal investigator, our first job is not to prove ghosts exist, it's to debunk. And that's where a lot of people get it mixed up is that's why we're allowed to have a team member that doesn't believe in ghosts. Somebody's got to keep us that are running around talking in the dark and thinking that something's talking back to us in line. So you can't have a bunch of crazy people run this island.
Yeah, the only way anything's ever going to be considered explained is if you can get rid of everything else that is explained. So we have to debunk everything, whether it be electricity, outside noise, anything.
And you know, so when a lot of times when we're doing stuff, if we do hear like a car go by while we're recording, we'll go ahead and mark it, car just went by. That way we know when we go back and review our evidence, we don't go, "Oh, wait a minute, was that a little rumble? No, something was growling at you." Oh, that was a car. Oh. Green hood, and I'll get you next.
So my last question is like on the same line of trying to be an investigator. Like, how do you debunk being like? For me, there are two main theories, like about being extraterrestrial and about being supernatural. How do you like discern both of them?
Extraterrestrial and supernatural.
Like,
Yeah, alien and or paranormal.
If this object were to come off the table and just fly down there, I'm gonna have to say that's supernatural.
Yeah.
Because alien presence means that there's gonna be evidence of alien. It's all about the evidence. You know, at the end of the day, it's all about evidence. We're investigators. You know, and we rely on evidence, and we're also scientists. So when we go out to a place that's supposed to be paranormal, that's our hypothesis right there. is this place really haunted? You know, well, let me go see why this is happening. That's our job. Why is this happening? How often is this happening? Is it because somebody steps over here that door moved? You know, that's what we do. And then when we figure we can't find a logical reason, now we have to determine supernatural towards extraterrestrial or whatever at that point.
And what was your question?
What was your question?
I was wondering where you guys have personally been that you've seen the most activity.
St. Augustine.
St. Augustine, yeah. St. Augustine.
Like anywhere in particular, or just St. Augustine in general?
Pick a spot in St. Augustine. If you stand in the middle of the city of St. Augustine, you could throw a rock and wherever it lands, guarantee you there's something paranormal there. Because the city of St. Augustine, you see, what I love about paranormal also is I'm a history person. I love history. So with St. Augustine, when they used to bury the dead back then, they used to do more mass burying. So there's a lot of mass graves in St. Augustine. So you might have people buried on top of each other. And even in St. Augustine, if you're gonna go more than 6 inches digging on your ground, you have to call the city and have their, I think she walked away and my
Excavation.
thank you. The archaeologists to come out there and excavate and do the rest of it if you're gonna go more than 6 inches, because they've been finding bones and everything. There's so St. Augustine, then it would have to be the couple private homes that we've done as a team. But if I go back 17 years ago, there was a particular house where I got thrown. I had nobody around me, and the next thing you know is I got thrown by nothing. Just all of a sudden, just felt something just come right here, push me from right here, just throw me back. Yeah, it kind of made me mad. I got up and called it out. I was ready to fight.
I stayed at St. Augustine not too long ago, and the keys ended up under my pillow, which was crazy. But what I'm asking is like, if I were to wake up in the middle of the night, would I see the keys? Like, I don't know, I'm like, did they just disappear and reappear under my pillow, or would I actually see them get like moved across the room all the way until they ended up under my pillow?
It really depends on the entity.
Yeah.
If it wants you to see it, it'll let you see it.
So it can, like, the entity could make it just disappear and reappear under my pillow?
Depending on the entity, again, because when you're talking about possible human spirits, those manifest and or can actually physically touch and carry something. But when you start talking about something maybe a little bit darker and or demonic, like you said, we don't really like to use that word because it can scare people. I prefer darker entities because I'm not exactly sure what they are unless, of course, we get the word demon across one of our pieces of equipment. And when you get into that, then I believe that, yeah, they could just
They
simply
could make something blink out of space
dematerialize
and then
and
reappear.
completely rematerialize.
I would almost theorize that it's possible that it's not really disappearing, but they have been able to create enough solid form to cover it in movement. So you may not see exactly what it is unless they want you to see it, but you picture something close inside a hand. You can't see the object. But if you can't see the hand moving the object either, it looks as if it just blipped.
Because that weirded me out. I'm like, okay, so while I was sleeping, something came and put the keys under my pillow. But if I would have woken up, like, how long did it take? Or would I see the keys? Was it floating to my pillow? Did it get dragged to the pillow? Did it, I'd never understood. I'm like, or did they just disappear and reappear?
A lot of times with, like, we're talking to clients and they start describing like how things begin, because I want to know how it began and everything when I go in. And it starts off little things like that, like, oh, my TV remote wasn't in the same spot that I know that I put it in. Nobody was home for the day. You know, and once you start acknowledging the entities, the more power you're giving them. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, that because you're reacting to them, fear, kids playing with them, that's why a lot of times the kids see them as little, you know, they'll be like, oh, did you see the little girl over there? Or I just saw Grandpa, but Grandpa's been dead for 3 years. You know, that's how entities come and try to get the trust. And there's been, in my experience too, is the more powerful kind of, God, I hate using that word.
I know.
I used it too.
Just get it out there.
Yeah, the more power, like the more energy the entity has, like the malicious entity, it's gonna play tricks on you. It's gonna sit there. It's gonna get worse. The more you acknowledge it, we give it power. We get, you know, they'll take our power, our energy. Why do I want to use the power word all of a sudden?
I have no idea. I'm gonna go with this plate.
Yeah, and in that, I'm talking to a room full of people instead of an empty room, like normal.
You're not so used to that.
So.
But different things feed that energy source. Emotions, good or bad, in high levels, feed that energy source. We're not just talking about the lights, the power, the...
Perfect example. Perfect example. This is our most viewed video on our YouTube channel. It's haunting in Tennessee. So this guy's friend gets a hold of us and says that he really needs help. So we get up to Tennessee. Grady was with us. It was me and my wife. We used Grady's baby's mom, who's like a sister to me, up there. She came and helped us out. But we were able to cleanse the house. We were able to do some stuff. We told, when we left, I left the guy perfect. I gave him these simple instructions. Whatever you do not go back and try to collect EVPs. Do not try to photograph or acknowledge these things in any way, because if you do, you're opening up a pathway. And once you open up that pathway, whatever we did to try to keep everything out, you just destroyed, because you let it have another way in. And now the activity has been amping up again at his place.
Looking like you're gonna have to go back.
And yeah, it's looking like we're gonna have to do a return trip to go ahead and help him out again with what's going on at his house. But that was a whole crazy experience within itself too.
Have you ever explored the pink jail in St. Augustine?
Yes, we actually have it up on our video. We actually have it up on our YouTube channel. Me and my wife had just recently, about 2 months ago.
That was when I was there about 2 months ago.
About 2 months ago or so, we did the jail.
Did you get a lot of activity?
The best activity we got was in the sheriff's living quarters.
That's where I got some. I was kind of annoyed, which I hate to like be that way, but I was kind of annoyed to the fact where it was like, okay, they said we're gonna see some stuff, and I'm like really skeptical about that stuff. So I was like, it was me and my ex, and we were walking around, and I was like, oh, let's go into the sheriff's thing, and I was like, so the kids used to sleep here, you know, the quarters and stuff, and I was like, I'm like, did I just pay like, I don't know, $40 or whatever just to walk around in a dark space? Like, I feel like I just got gypped, right? So I was like, this is so whatever. And then as soon as I walked up to the door to enter the sheriff's quarters, on the voice box, or I'm sorry, ghost box. I'm sorry, I don't know what it's called.
Spirit box,
yeah,
ghost
spirit
box,
box.
SB7, all those things
It's
included.
like, it was like buzzing the whole time, like static, and it went dead quiet, and then something went stop, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm like.
Then it was worth the $40, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That was $40 well spent now.
Honestly,
I was like at the cells, and I was like, I wonder if they speak Spanish, right? So I was like, what's your age? And I'm like, maybe it was just a coincidence over at the sheriff's quarters and stuff. And then I walked away from my ex, who kept holding the spirit box, and then it said 23, and I was like, I'm 23. And then I was like, what cell are you in? And then it said 3, and then I walked away, and I was like freaking out. I was like, no, you know what? I just want to go. Like, you know, I'm like, I thought this was a joke, but I want to leave. And then it went stop, really, really, really loud, and I have it on video. it was like, it yelled, stop. Like, I was asking too many questions. I was like, yeah, this is, that is.
That tends to be a lot of people's reaction.
Yeah.
I want to see it, I want to see it, I want to see it. Holy crap, I saw it! And run the other way.
Well, at the same time too, I mean, one thing we always gotta remember if you're gonna go out and do paranormal investigating is spirits they just don't work on our time. They're not on a schedule going, oh, there's another tour group coming in 30 minutes, guys,
There's
get your place.
nothing
Hold on, you weren't there
glamorous.
last time, Edward, get upstairs.
Yeah.
And you gotta throw that ball down, here's your ball.
Yeah.
There's nothing glamorous about it. We
No.
can sit in the middle of a cemetery for hours
Yeah.
to get 2 words.
Yeah.
We go through the same feeling sometimes when we're just like, why are
And
we here? We're not
sometimes-
getting anything.
Yeah, sometimes I think like, it's not that I don't believe it, I just don't want to believe it because I feel like it's really scary, you know?
That's how I feel on a lot of people that are skeptical about
Yeah,
the
I
paranormal.
don't
It's like,
want to believe
it's
it.
not that you don't believe it, it's that you don't wanna believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're the ones that instead of people like yourself getting scared and running away from it, we get scared and run toward it,
Mhm.
hoping to maybe see something, find something,
Yeah.
and show everybody else. That's why we document everything. Is
Yeah.
because everybody else needs to know, and not only for my benefit, but for their own, in my
Yeah.
opinion, I'm not crazy. I
Yeah.
know what I've seen, and I will, if I can, I will show it to everyone who will see it.
And then not only that, but when stuff like that happens, I'll get to you just a second. And that's when we start using the equipment that you see in front of us. You know, people claiming about shadow figures. I got the grid light, which unfortunately,
really good.
because it's
Yeah,
not good,
light, but-
it's bright in here. But the grid light, we'll set that up and we'll watch and see if anything cuts in between or plays with the different laser dots. And you know, we've seen it to where we've actually seen shadows move through it, which is pretty cool. We got the millimeter that reads the EMF readings to help us. I usually use this. I'll take the camera at that point and walk around the house and show people, or wherever we're at, and show it, like right now it's at a 0.0. So if it's staying at a 0.0 when I walk around, wherever I'm walking around, okay, good. Now if this thing moves, why didn't it move before?
So EMF is electromagnetic field.
Yeah. And then if there's a place with high activity, we put this little guy out here, which is our REM pod. And the closer anything gets here, it starts to go off, makes the noise, we get to it. You know, the closer it gets. We got this right here, which reads the temperature. And all this other stuff that we use, that's what how it helps us figure out what it is, helps us to find the logical reasons behind stuff that are unexplainable. And get to your question.
Oh, yeah, so, have you guys ever worked with any sort of like clairvoyance or anything like that?
Right there.
Yeah.
Awesome, so.
She literally will tell you, like we joke around, she likes to joke around with people a lot of times and use the sixth sense line.
It's really cool and not cool at sometimes because I can't help what I see or when I see it. I have not a lot of control. I'm working on my strength about being able to push. I have more control over being able to block it out than I do with accepting it, because when you're seeing those things that aren't supposed to be there and everyone's telling you, no, you're crazy, it's not there. But it is. The hardest one, the couple of hardest ones I've ever been to that we saw were we went to the scene of where a man murdered his wife and child many, many years ago. And the closer we get, the more disgusted, the more sick I feel. And then it just like, we get there and everything just plays like a movie and then it's gone. But it plays on a loop. It's like, it's somewhere I can't even go anymore because I don't want to see that anymore.
Yeah, there's times like I'm real good about, as a leader of my team, that if my team looks like they're uncomfortable or anything, I'll stop the investigation.
I
But it
know,
comes in
sometimes that
handy,
irritates me,
too.
but I'm the provocator. You know, so.
I mean, when we were doing the private home in St. Lucie County, it helped because I was able to get pictures of what we were dealing with, which helped us with the information we were getting and the research we were putting in. We were able to put together what we were dealing with better than if we weren't able to see what we were walking into.
And with her being able to do that, it helps me out a lot, because then, depending on what I need, it helps me know what I need to do. If we're not getting the activity, it's not answering, okay, now I gotta provoke, which, yay.
It comes in handy for locating point of entrance too, if there's a major point of entrance in the home or on the property.
There's times where I could tell her something like, a couple weeks ago, I was driving by a cemetery I drive by every day, Woodlawn Cemetery on Boulevard, you know, and I always look at it when I drive by. I always watch it.
Second oldest cemetery in the city.
This time, I see a lady, and you could just tell that she's not dressed for this area or this certain time period. So I'm like, what in the hell? Let me go check this out. So I go in through the only entrance you can get there, and when I drive down there, she's gone. And I'm going, wait a minute, she has to walk by me or somewhere where I would have saw her walking. Where is she? She's nowhere to be seen. As I was getting ready to go back in the car, I turn around and look back the way I'm fixing to drive to leave out of this place, and she's over on the other side where she couldn't have gotten on foot. And she turned around, it looks, and keeps walking. And I'm like, I forgot completely I had the equipment in the back of the car and everything. So I didn't get no thing on video on that time ago. I was kicking myself in the butt for it. So, but I described it to her, and she would, when I told her what was happening, what had happened, I didn't tell her how the woman looked. She completely described what I saw, the lady that I saw, by me just telling her the story.
Yeah, I wasn't in the car when he saw it.
So you're visual clairvoyant then?
Sometimes, like when we were in St. Augustine, we're taking a midnight tour. Starts at midnight, goes to like 3 a.m. Amazing. Night Among Ghosts. Do it if you go to St. Augustine. But they have exercises throughout the tour where they know the history. You don't, especially if you've never taken it before. And they'll tell you, okay, while we're going this, I just want you to open up, pay attention, see what you feel. We're walking down this alleyway, and I look at him, I'm like, everything just feels like confusion and death. That's all I just felt like surrounded by confusion and death. We turn the corner, here's a big mass burial grave that is now just a parking lot and a grassy area. Yellow fever, smallpox, mass graves buried up to no less than
6 inches.
6 inches below the ground because they stacked the graves. You'd have a 6-foot grave, then a 3-foot grave, and then 6 inches below, and they stacked them in this mass grave, no markers, no nothing. And then we go to the second part, and I just start feeling dragged down, like someone just put weight on my shoulders. My legs don't want to move. Walking is just difficult. And she goes, well, that makes sense because a woman who witnessed a murder before she could turn the person in is walking down this alleyway. She got jumped by 2 men, dragged off behind the fence, and killed right there. So it's not always, I don't always necessarily see it. It just, you have to pay attention to what you're feeling, how you're feeling.
And it seems like it's like intuition as well, right?
Almost.
That's more for the empath. Like I like to joke
Yeah.
I call it my spidey sense. You know, I've had it to where it's got me from getting hurt, and like all of a sudden.
Mine doesn't naturally. Mine doesn't just. Sometimes it just hits me. I'm not expecting it. I don't know. I was expecting it because she was telling us to pay attention, but for the most part, it blindsides me.
You said that when you feel like one of your teammates getting uncomfortable, you stop the investigation. But how can you guarantee that they won't, the spirit will actually stop because you have stopped and like guarantee the comfortability of that teammate.
It's always a risk.
Yeah.
We've all been taught.
Yeah, I mean, we got stones that we wear.
I'm wearing one of mine tonight.
Here, I've got a couple of necklaces on protection.
And then if we really think that it's bad, we got this Palo Alto that will burn. We'll burn sage
Of course.
and burn it around them.
Holy water if necessary.
So it depends on, I mean, I'm not talking about like, I don't stop right away. I'm gonna make sure, are you sure that it's this, or do you need to stop, or do you think we can continue on? Can you muscle through it? But I mean, if I could tell that if you're on my team, you're down to distraught, I'll call the investigation just to keep you safe, because.
We had to pull out of the house because of me.
Yeah, I've had to stop. No, because we usually always, like I said.
And it always works.
The worst would be
So far, yeah.
the one we pulled out of, because when we got to the hotel room, I went to go take a cleansing bath, make sure I had nothing left, because it was coming at me hard. I was getting hit, and as I'm soaking to cleanse my bath, my dog comes in to check on me, and then all of a sudden, 3 red marks appear on the top of her muzzle that were not there all night, from her coming to check on me while I'm getting rid of anything that's left.
And then within 24 hours, they were gone. 3 scratches. So.
Which I do have photos up of those, not with me.
What are your favorite stones for protection? Like, what are your favorite stones?
Personally, what I wear, I've got black onyx here. I've got standard onyx under my shirt. And I usually wear tiger's eye, but that's a personal preference, really. It's whatever you feel charges and protects yourself.
There are certain stones that are for specific things. You just gotta find what
Black
it is, like.
onyx, obsidian, quartz. Of course, black onyx just happens to be one of my favorite stones anyway, so I'm lucky.
So pretty much what she named are the main ones that I would recommend. And then I like him. He's got a thing for tiger's eye. It's one of his stones, so he can use tiger's eye as a protection for himself. So if you got a stone that just for some reason your whole life has always been one that spoke to you, I would recommend using that, because
If you're a super religious person, you might want to use a religious artifact. I mean, like for me, I have my obsidian. I can open the top and it's packed with sage, sea salt, and a drop of my blood to carry my family protection.
So it's like a little spell jar and everything.
Yeah, but at the same time, I walk around with my baby, which is my Irish Catholic heritage, and it is in Latin. I made sure it was in the original language.
When something's communicating with you, the spirit, do they know they're the spirits? Or do they think, so you hear the spirit, hear the entity?
It's something you have to decipher through questions. Sometimes they do, sometimes they really don't. Like, there's some people that they die suddenly, and they don't realize that they're actually dead. They think they're still alive. Because there's different kinds of hauntings. There's two real major ones that we deal with or any paranormal group deals with. It's called intelligent haunts and residual. Residual is usually the ones that don't realize they're dead. They just keep doing the same thing that they've done all the time, and it's played like in a loop. Think of a scratch on an old vinyl. It's never going to get past a word. You're going to keep hearing that same word over and over and over until somebody skips it forward or turns it off. So that's residual. Intelligent haunts, which is what we hope for a lot of times when we go into the places, is where we can have the back and forth conversation. And usually intelligent haunts means they know they're dead, and whereas residual, we found that it's more likely that they don't realize they're dead. They're just going through their same routine over and over. I mean, a good example is if you had a house and you bought it, somebody died in it, and at 4 o'clock, he came home and he walked through the front door and he'd make his way through the kitchen. So you might hear footsteps from the front door out the kitchen. Even if you remodeled it and it's not even the kitchen no more, but that's the path that he chose to take. So you'll hear those footsteps still there.
Same time.
At the same time every day, and
And
there's
with
no
more-
way to my bad.
And with more intellectuals hauntings, that's where they're saying your name. And you'll get actual responses through the equipment.
And they can
Through
also,
what you're saying instead of just the same thing over and over and over.
and also they could explain to you how they done it. If you get an intelligent haunt, they'll explain to you how they done it.
They're usually ones that actually seem to have a message either to you or someone else.
And they may or may not respond. I mean, we've had intelligent conversation where it was literally, we have managed to record what sounds like a conversation happening in the background of what we're actually doing. I had one of my favorite recordings. We were at Myrtle Hill, Memory Gardens, and I'm recording, and as I play it back, those two were across the room for where I was recording. And I hear this whisper on playback go, "Look at him. Lobster. His hands."
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can only really hear it if you put on earbuds and you have.
But in the
But it's
foreground, what they were getting in this, 'cause like this was almost like it was spoken directly into the microphone of the camera. Like I just happened to pick this up. They were talking to each other. Because in the foreground, they're getting responses over the spirit box from other entities.
That's the thing with cemeteries. There's so many dead that might be either wanting to say something or, like you said, doesn't even realize they're dead. They're just walking around trying to do anything. The biggest thing we get at cemeteries are names. Names galore. The hardest thing to figure out is it their names they're trying to tell us?
Or a name of somebody they're looking for.
Exactly, or the name that they're trying to talk to. And that's where we're hoping for more of the intellectual stuff, because otherwise it's just a whole lot of garbled stuff. Because you're surrounded by so many entities.
Yeah.
And
Are
all
they
wanna talk
speaking
you at
to
the same
us?
time, and they, you know,
Are they speaking to us or each other?
Or are they ignoring us and discussing how to scare us off?
Oh.
Is that time?
No, we got 15 minutes.
Oh, okay, so almost.
Do y'all have any experience with Ouija boards? And if you do, is it?
How did I know this question was going to come
Universal
tonight?
sigh. Go first.
I don't like Ouija boards, personally. I mean, I use them, they work. I just don't like them because a lot of people aren't disciplined, they don't understand. And I've learned that most private home investigations that we've ever done is usually because at one point in time, you can trace it back to somebody playing with a Milton Bradley Ouija board and then thinking that it was garbage and didn't think it worked, and all hell breaks loose in their house.
And-
They call people like us to clean it up, and oh wow, there's a Ouija board. Haven't you learned your lesson?
And if you learn to use them, there are so many safer tools for communication that won't leave you quite as exposed, should I say.
For example, our dowsing rods.
My babies.
You know, you can hold them out, hold still as you can. You ask questions. And for us, with these, our yes answers are usually they'll cross them for yes and they swing them out for no. We were actually at Jessica Lumford's graveside at one, and she was using the dowsing rods. Because she loved, when we go there, Jessica loves to talk to my wife because that's a female.
That's
You
a
know,
hard
because of
one.
what happened to her, I'm guessing she doesn't really like to talk to males.
We're
that
gonna
much.
say Google it. If you don't know the
Yeah.
name, Google it. I'd rather not go into too much depth about that. It was a tragedy.
But she had sat there and she had asked Jessica, did you ask her if she wanted to give you a hug or would you like to give me a hug? And when she said that, the dowsing rods went outward as if they were hugging her, which was really cool. So that
Can things like that be faked? Yes. You have to know how to show you're not faking it.
Yeah.
There's a specific way to hold them, to steady it. And objects like that require a little bit of, I would say, energy. and they tend to bond with their user. They may not work, if they work for me and I'm bonded to them, they may not work for you. But that doesn't mean you couldn't choose your own.
And then we also use the pendulum right here as another tool for, but we can really only use these for yes and no questions, yes and no questions. And then we want more specific answers. That's when we move to the spirit boxes that you've seen on all the different paranormal TV shows on Travel Channel and stuff like that.
I saw your hand up earlier.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I was gonna ask. Oh yeah, so why would you guys say that like Ouija boards are so dangerous compared to other forms of communication?
Okay, because
I've heard that so many times.
Because-
Milton Bradley decided to go ahead and mass produce the Ouija board and try to tell everybody, oh, it's just a parlor trick, it's just a game. But not understanding what actually goes into the Ouija board and what it takes to make a Ouija board work. Because most people that buy them don't understand when you open a doorway, you have to close that doorway.
Right.
You know, and you gotta make sure that it's closed. You can't just, you know, something happened and the peninsula moved across it, we're done. No, now that it's open.
Yeah.
You have to properly close it. You have to, you know, there's ways and there's reasons why there's instructions on how to do these things, but most people don't understand it. They're doing it to play around and scare their friends or whatever. So that's why I just, if there were people that knew how to use the Ouija boards more often, I wouldn't be as a non-fan as I am.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
It's about
We've seen an
knowledge and
investigator that we like the way he does it, but he's controlled, he's disciplined, and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we got any more questions? Anything else?
I know you mentioned you had seen like your grandparents before. Have you guys had any other experiences seeing family members?
Not me personally.
Yes. We actually have a picture at Myrtle Hill because she's got family members buried at Myrtle Hill. She's got
My grandfather, my uncle, and my grandmother.
So she was wearing, we were there during the daytime. So this is another thing, it doesn't matter day or night. If it's haunted, it's haunted. And we were there during the day, and I took a couple pictures of her at the grave.
It was at my
It
grandmother's.
was at her grandmother's grave. And she was kneeling down, and you could see the dress that she's wearing, the black dress. And on one of the pictures, there is a white spot that shows up on her shoulder at her grandmother's grave, as if her grandmother had put her hand on her. And at that time, we were using the spirit box, and
We have other pictures of me within moments of that same picture that show I did not have that anything on my dress before or after. It's not a reflection of light because it's black material.
But yeah, also on the spirit box to that day, with that picture was taken, I believe you got "I love you" or something like that, or "love you" from her grandma. You know, so we chalked it up to her grandmother was there.
Very cool.
So kind of, I guess piggybacking off of like the protection rituals and stuff like that, have you guys ever worked with, and with like you being clairvoyant, you being an empath, have you guys ever worked with or confronted people who have like residual like energy on them, or like signs of possession or something like that, like people as opposed to spaces?
Personal cleansings that we've had to do instead of place cleansings.
Yeah, yeah.
I had stopped doing the paranormal for a long time because I helped the family. I helped the family with the kids.
Yeah.
And they had a friend and their parents that were into some very dark stuff. And unfortunately, things started happening and they couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't get rid of it. I had other people come in and try to help me get rid of it. We couldn't get rid of it. So I did the next best thing that I thought to do, which is jumping on top of the grenade to save the rest of the people. I let whatever it was come to me.
Right.
And it was a bad time. It was kind of a bit of a dark time for a little while. It took a long time for them to get me back into my right frame of mind. And I stopped doing paranormal investigating for a while. It was like, okay, I'm not as good as what I think I am. I got to be better if I'm going to keep doing this. And I had to go back and practice and research and learn more before I decided to go ahead and say, let's
He
go
was
ahead.
young and cocky, and now this is why he yells at me not to provoke too much.
And a lot of paranormal investigators don't actually end up confronting it or dealing with it. They go in, they do the research, they get the evidence as clear and concise and as they can, so that people who are able to confront and deal with the entity can then come in based on that evidence.
Yeah, so me personally, I would not try to do what Ed Lorraine did, Ed Warren did, and do a exorcism on my own.
Yeah.
Because
No.
I'm not that practiced at it, but I will make sure, I will do everything to advocate to get somebody who knows how to do it to come and help that person.
Right, okay.
So that, I mean, that's the whole thing is.
To clear a house and protect a house,
Yeah.
one thing, but when you're talking about somebody's life,
Yeah, and or soul.
yeah.
Any more?
Earlier you mentioned something about the Catholic Church authenticating your recordings. What other kind of involvement do they have in paranormal stuff? I know that's who you go to for exorcisms, religious, or anything else.
Really, that's about all their involvement is. They try to get proof of.
It's
they're
their
trying-
way of studying it without doing it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're doing the dirty work for them while they sit up in their nice, comfortable, cushiony chairs and. try
And they
to
get to decide what's
dissect our
fake.
evidence to make sure that we're not faking it. So, is there any more, anything else?
5 more minutes.
We have 5 more minutes or?
Do your closeout?
All right, I've got a weird story. I'm gonna piggyback off of if you let anything in the house. Years ago, my ex, her mom was into Wiccan stuff, you know, and she seemed like she did like the more earthy based, I guess, good. Well, my ex got a hold of one of the books, and I didn't realize that, and she had read about it. I guess she had tried to do stuff. Well, I remember one night, clear as day, we had fallen asleep, and let's say I'm on the small couch, behind me is the bar, then the kitchen, and like a nook in the hallway. She was on the other wall on the big couch. She had fallen asleep, and we had fallen asleep watching TV. I woke up and felt weird, like the TV was on, but it was really dark near me, and I have two cats at the time, and they were looking past me, and then they bolted down the hall. I'm like, that's weird. Then I felt this pressure just come down on me. And they say it was sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis
But,
and night terror. Yeah.
but I had the ability to push, and I was trying to push off the couch, and I was trying to call out to my girlfriend her back was turned. I'm like, I couldn't really open my mouth though, and I felt this dark. I didn't feel it, but I looked up and it got really, really, really dark, and then I got about an inch off the couch, and another boom, and I was like, oh, and my whole thought was like, don't quit fighting it, but eventually I passed out, because it was just like a constant, like this crazy feeling all over my whole body.
That's you.
Then you wake up in the morning and was like, was that real? Did I dream that, or?
And after that, an apartment back in the kitchen nook area in the hallway was so creepy. Like you always felt like you had eyes on you. It didn't matter who all was there. You always felt there was another set of eyes or something was there with you that wasn't supposed to be. It was
What's
like
the address of this place?
I can tell you where it was.
I mean-
It was like creepy, and it took a lot. And like I was so happy to get out of that place.
And we've had to personally cleanse our own home at least twice because of something following our daughter.
Yeah.
We just got the symbol from out there to cut it down, so.
Yeah.
All right, guys, well, thank you for joining us for CHP Paranormal. You can follow us on any of our social medias. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter at CHP Paranormal Investigations. If you want to hit us up and you got a private home or you know somebody who might need something investigated, you can email us at chp.paranormal.16@gmail.com. You know, we look at our emails all the time. And we'll come out. We don't charge for investigations. We
No.
don't charge for cleansings. The only thing we ask is allow us to put it on YouTube, and we will protect your identity to the fullest. So thank you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed 2021 Tampa Bay Comic Con, the return of the Comic Con.